Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to The Joy is in the Journey. I'm Gina and I am here from beautiful Rhode Island. I just moved everything, and of course, everything's off the sides because that's what live is all about. The Joy is in the Journey is actually about being in this moment right here and right now and knowing that it's not a destination. I've heard so many people that I've worked with as a both a life coach and as a practitioner. I have had people tell me, well, when I have the right relationship, then I'll be happy. When I have the right job or mate, then I'll be happy. When I have when I've lost enough weight, when I can afford what I need, when it's all about some time in the future, when I get to the vacation time, when I get to see the only thing we ever have is right here and right now. Spirit is right where we are. And the gift of that is we always have the opportunity to experience joy because joy is an inherent nature of divine. And knowing that means that wherever we are, it is. But am I experiencing it? So it's not about destination happiness. It's about just recognizing that joy is already there and opening up and realizing and being in this moment because it'll never look like this again. Life will never have the same people, the same circumstances. You'll never be the age that you are. You'll never have the people around you and opportunities that are this moment. And what you do with this is what becomes your life. So knowing that, that's what this show is all about. Every week we have different guests that help us to really appreciate life in a different way. So today, my guest is someone that I'm so excited to bring to you. You know, if there's one thing in New Thought that we all can agree on, thoughts are things. That what you're thinking about, you're bringing about, and you are attracting in your life what it is you're focusing upon. So we use that as our mantra. We know it as the truth. And, you know, the person that I have as my guest, I ended up finding New Thought in CSL because of, you know, she was the third person in a very short period of time that said, you would love my spiritual center. You'd love it. And I thought, you know, no one ever said, you'd love my church. You'd love my, no one had ever said that to me. And I was actually seeking at the time. She was the third. And I said, what time on Sunday? And not only did I go, but she was at the door greeting when I got there. And I knew I was home. This woman to me absolutely embodies, you know, walking the talk. She fully embraces life in so many ways, and she manifested her dreams. She knew she was meant, Spirit called her to Maui, and she didn't know how or what that was going to look like, but she was looking for her soulmate, and she knew that he was in Maui, and she was going no matter what. And everyone around her kind of said, oh, like, how is that going to work? But you know what? She didn't question Spirit. Well, she may have a couple of times along the way, but she knew enough to go with it. And I can tell you, she manifested more than she could even imagine. So our guest today, who is, of course, also a spiritual life coach that she's been for over 10 years. And she was a licensed alcohol and drug therapist for over 20 years. So she has a background in all of this. She's been an inspirational speaker. She's an author of 2 amazing books, done retreats and workshops that I have been to. I am so happy to introduce you to Pat Hastings-Burns. Hello, Pat.
Hi. Can you see me?
I see part of you. You're going to have to move over just a little bit.
Okay. I don't see you.
The opposite way we've got to look.
Okay. I don't see you now. Am I supposed to?
I am there, and you have to trust me that we're there then, I guess. I'm not sure what happened on your iPad.
You know what? Maybe we're still in the private chat. Should I get out of the private chat?
Yes.
Ah. Okay. Oh, that didn't happen. What do I do?
You are live, and we can see you perfectly.
Okay.
So let's go with that. How are you today?
I'm great, Gina. I'm great. It's so good to see you and to hear you, and I just love sharing my story.
And I know it's tough when you can't see as far as what you're doing. So I'm going to have you, maybe if you want to go, just come back in, maybe go back on that link, and I'm going to
Okay,
show
the link
you.
isn't on the bottom. Should I click the X? Maybe I'll do that. Ah,
Did
I
you
got
find
you.
us? There
I
you
got
are.
you.
Okay,
Ah,
perfectly. And
okay.
I'm gonna show people up front because they're
Okay.
beautiful. These are Pat's books, and I'm gonna tell you, she is amazing, and we're gonna talk about both of them and the stories of how they became. I know you can find them on Amazon, but also I believe her website. And we're gonna go into all of that, but I wanted you to see this beautiful work that it is. And her website is Simply a Woman of Faith, and that you are. You walk your talk. So how are you today, and how did this all come about? How did your spiritual path lead you to where you are today?
Well, it took me 7 years to write Simply a Woman of Faith. It took me that long because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think anybody would read it. I didn't think I had a story. And every time I would go on a retreat, Spirit would say, I want you to finish the book. And I would write, and then I would put it down. So it took 7 years for it to be published. But the book changed my life, and it's changed many other people's lives as well by reading it. I wouldn't be living in Maui if I hadn't written the book. I was speaking at a church in Rhode Island, and it had always been my dream to visit Maui. And this after the talk, and I was talking about my book, Simply a Woman of Faith, and this woman came up to me. Her name was Ellen, and she was 87 years old. And we were talking about the talk, and she said she lived in Maui, and she said, I said I'd always wanted to visit. She said, well, you can stay with me, and you can stay for as long as you want, and you can use my car. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so I took her up on it, and I visited Maui for 2 weeks. I stayed with this woman that I had never met before, and I had an amazing time. She invited me back to Maui the year after she was going away, and she said I could stay in her condo, which was overlooked the ocean. It was absolutely gorgeous. I could stay there while she was away. So I went back. I think I went back for a month. And it was then that I heard Spirit say, I want you to move here. And it was like, how can I move there? I don't have the money. I'm on Social Security. I can't leave my family. I can't leave my community. But I just kept praying. And then I just knew in my heart that this is what God was calling me to do. So I went home and I put my house, I had a condo. I put it up I rented it. Yeah, I rented it from somebody from Concordia, in fact. And
The story of that every step of the way, just so you know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's the story. Every story along the way, the best gift you've given is you shared your path with people. You've told everyone as you went along how it's going on. You have a weekly blog that is absolutely wonderful, and people can go to your website and add themselves to it. So I encourage people, go to simplyawomanoffaith.com. This is Pat's email, but simplyawomanoffaith.com to get onto her blog. And it's just so inspirational what you've done with that. But this particular story was wonderful because you announced it, and someone in service just happened to need someplace.
I mean, it was just unbelievable. And then I didn't have a place to live. So I told my family that I'm moving. And of course, like you said, my oldest son said to me, Mom, what are you going to do if something happens? We just, that's 14 hours away or 5,000 miles or whatever. And I knew in my spirit, I knew that this is what God wanted me to do. And as you said in the beginning, Gina, I knew I was going to meet my soulmate here too. I knew that. And so when I actually moved here, I didn't have a place to live till 2 weeks before I actually moved. But I kept trusting. I had rented my condo, And I just trusted that God would provide, and he did. I lived with a friend and her husband who had just moved there also, right on the ocean. And I lived there for 6 months, and at $300 a month. I mean, places here, hotels are like 700 or 800 a night. And here I was living on the ocean with some friends for $300 a month. So I did that for 6 months. And do you want me to share when I met Larry, or should we talk? Where should
Well,
we
you know what? Your first book,
go?
there's a lot of stories in it that
Yes,
are very inspirational. And I'm someone that loves those. I love the God winks. That's what I
yes,
call them.
yes, yes,
Those places where you know you're exactly where you're meant to be, how it's meant to be. I am someone that is very blunt and outgoing, so I tend to say, I want to know. Just
yeah,
give me the specifics as far
yeah,
as, when it comes to, spirit, what do you want me to know? I want to
right,
see it clearly. I don't want to question it. Let me
right.
know. And you have so many of those.
Do.
If you could, can you share the story of the blouse for
Oh
me?
my God. I love to share that story. And I love when I was speaking, doing inspirational speaking at churches, I would share that story and I would just look at the faces and everybody would go, what? So the story was my ex-husband and was out of work for a year, and we had 4 children under the age of 10. They had just applied for welfare and we were on food stamps. And I was waiting to pick up the kids from school one day and I had some time to kill. So I went to a local boutique, and I love sales and I love clothes. I love color. So I walk in the store and I'm just kind of looking around and I see a sign, a sale, clearance in the back. So I go back and looking through the clothes and I found this blouse that I just fell in love with it. And I still have it. It has roses on the top. And so as I was reluctantly putting the blouse back, I heard that small, still voice of God, which we all have, which we sometimes don't listen to. But I heard that voice say, buy it and I will provide. And I remember standing there in the store and going, is that you, God, or is that me? And I was used to listening to that voice. So I decided to buy the blouse. And I had $10 in my pocketbook, and that was for milk and bread on the way home. Needless to say, I didn't buy milk and bread. I took my $10, all I had in my pocket, and I bought the blouse. I picked up the kids from school, and I didn't say anything to them, and got home and grabbed the mail, and looking through the mail, and there was an envelope, and it said, to Pat. I said, oh, I wonder what this is, and I opened it up, and it was a card, and it said, to Pat, from the son of a carpenter, and a $10 bill. I mean, if that had happened a week after I had just bought the blouse, I would have been excited. But to have it happen 10 minutes after I bought the blouse, so obviously it was somebody who listened to that small, still voice of God. I never found out. That probably happened 35 years ago. I never found out who sent it. And yeah, so I love to share that story to inspire others to listen, because that voice, we all have that voice within us.
And you have taken us on this journey from the very beginning with you, which has been amazing. So the gift is people can look at the older blogs as well. And one of the things that I applaud you on, and your humility, your honesty, your sincerity, even in the muck, when you're not experiencing that feeling of joy, when you're not experiencing even that faith at times, you've shared that. And I cannot thank you enough for that, because we all have those moments. And somewhere along the lines we were told, we were told or thought we were supposed to be perfect. So
Yeah.
when you share about your muck, it
Yeah.
reminds us that it's okay to be in that place of feeling like that. So I cannot
Yes.
thank you enough
Thank you.
for that. And you had this week's, actually even this week's was wonderful. I loved it. Please tell us about this week's blog.
Oh, I love it. I just turned 75, and I received some money for my birthday, and I wanted to buy a new phone. I had an old phone, and so I went to Verizon, and I had no idea what to buy, right? And the guy was so cute. I said, if I were your mother, what would you advise, right? So he was 50 years old, so he told me what to buy. So I bought an iPhone 13. So they only had a black one in the store. So I said, I want a blue one, right? I was so excited picking out a new phone, and so they had to order it, and it would be like 2 weeks. So I said, fine. So I left the store, and all of a sudden I thought, no, I want a pink one. So I go back in the store and I said to him, I'd like to order a pink one. And he said, well, we'll have to order it and we'll have to cancel the order. I said, that's fine. So I left. A few hours later, he calls me and he said, Pat, I just got an order in, and guess what? There's one pink phone. It was like, okay, I'm there. So I went back and got the phone. They also had a special on iPads. I have an iPad, an old iPad that was given to me, and I thought I really don't need an iPad, but there was a great sale on it, and he said I really think you should buy it because it's a really good iPad. So I prayed and I said, God, do you want me to get this iPad? And I didn't hear anything, and I was like, I gotta know. You gotta tell me. Do you want me to buy it? And I heard, yes, I want you to buy it. So I said, okay, I'm gonna buy the iPhone and the iPad. So I get home, and that night I was struggling. Like, did I make a mistake, God? I don't really need a new iPad. I have one already. Can I trust your voice? And we were just going back and forth in my journaling, writing to God. He said, I want you to have it. I want you to trust me. And so I said, okay, I'm going to keep the iPad, even though I was struggling with it. So I tried to order a iPad cover that night from Amazon, and it wouldn't go through. So I just went to bed. The next morning, which was Saturday, I had to go back to Verizon with my iPad because the contacts weren't in it. And as I was driving there was a yard sale. And I love yard sales. And my first chapter in Simply a Woman of Faith talks about how God provides through yard sales. So I go to this yard sale, and I see a cover. And not only is it a cover for an iPad, but it has, I can do all, there's the quote, the scripture on it, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, I stood there and I went, oh my God, I wonder if this is going to fit, because there's lots of different covers for the iPads. So I go to my car and bring my iPad back, and it fit perfectly. It was like, so now I'm tears in my eyes. I have chills. And, oh, thank you, Gina. Perfect. Yeah, there it is. So I go to pay for it. Now, of course, they're Christian, and I tell them the story about how I was struggling the night before, and this is what God wanted. And so I go to pay for it. They said, no, we want you to have this, and we want to take your picture. So they took a picture of me with the iPad. So that was just I just felt so amazed. I get in the car and I start sobbing, and I was sobbing because God just so provides, and I was sobbing because I wasn't trusting that voice. And I've been listening for over 40 years. That's a long time to be hearing the voice, and I was questioning it, that is this you, God? I don't need this iPad. So
well, we
anyway,
all do that too.
it,
I just want to say,
yeah,
the gift is that we all do that. We all
yeah,
have our moments of
yes,
doubt, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just like our
right,
children, we still love them. They question us all the time, and as they
right.
get older, they question us even more. But it doesn't mean that there's not love there. It's just a question of, at times, it's our nature, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah.
And
And ego was like,
absolutely.
I mean, ego was knocking me for a loop with fear and doubt and guilt, and I didn't feel worthy. I'm not used to spending that kind of money on myself.
Mm.
I go to yard sales, God provides, and it was like almost $1,000, and I didn't feel worthy, and that was very deep. I didn't know that. So no
And
matter how long you're on the spiritual path, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 40 years, we still, the ego, this, and I think the ego is more vicious the closer that we get to God. And yeah, yeah.
And it's funny sometimes because I think, shouldn't I have already learned that?
Right,
All the
exactly.
things we tell, didn't I already do that? Didn't I
I
already
know.
study that? Don't I teach that? Like all of those little things. But one of the things that I loved about it too was when you asked that young man, you said, if
Yes.
I was your mom,
Yeah.
you started chatting with him like you do everyone. And you
Yes.
shared about yourself, who you were, where you came from. And the fact that, can you tell a little bit about that? Because his response really
Yes.
gave me that, oh,
Well, what happened was, I just show up and I talk to everybody, and I love, that's one of the things that brings me so much joy, and I'll answer that question. Um, but just walking in the morning, I walk on the ocean, and just looking in people's eyes and smiling. I get so much joy just connecting. But back to the story. So I was in I've been to Verizon like 3 or 4 times, where he's my new best friend helping me, right? His name was Kelly. Anyway, while I was in the store, it was like 6 o'clock at night, and it was almost closing. And this guy came in and he was looking around at phones, but he was talking to himself. So Kelly and I are looking at one another like, oh my God, what is with him? Well, the guy left, and Kelly said, he's high on drugs. And I said, oh. And then I said, well, I was an alcohol and drug therapist, and I have compassion. He said, well, I've been in recovery for 7 years. So it was like we both had the same language. We both had the same higher power, and then he puts on his phone. He said, this is what this is the music that I listen to. So we had a deep connection of God. Yeah. Yeah.
and the beauty of, you said, well, my family's all in Rhode
Yes.
Island, far away. And he said, not anymore.
Right. He says, you have family now. Yeah. So
And the beauty is you have that spirit about you that invites people in as you extend yourself in love, as you look in their eyes, they're looking in yours, and that oneness, it transmits. When we're in
really
that
does.
place, allowing for vulnerability, allowing love to be present, and we're not pretending in any way, it's a common language of love. And when you talk about joy, there is nothing more joyful than our authentic selves. We can't pretend. We can pretend to be happy. I spent my life in false cheerfulness, the first 20 years of my life that way. And then I realized that that's not happy. That's just false cheerfulness. I didn't know the difference for a long time. But when we're our authentic selves, we will attract other people that are being their authentic self. And it is a common language of love that is so needed.
And so after I wrote my blog this week, I was talking to a friend, and I said, I truly believe that God allowed me to struggle with, did I hear your voice? What's going on? Can I trust your voice? So I could share that, because I think people look at somebody like me who's written a book, and they'll think, how you never struggle? And that's not the truth. I do struggle. And oftentimes, like during the week, I won't know what I'm going to write about all the time, right? And I'll say, so something will happen, and I'll say, oh God, I'm not sharing that. I'm not sharing that. And he says, oh yes, you are. And I do. And it's really to inspire others that they're not alone. That's the bottom line, Yeah.
And it's the ups and the downs. You had experienced a difference as far as, not being able to eat the normal food that you used to be able to eat.
Right.
We're not having I loved when you were talking about, and you actually shared video of Dancing with the Stars on the cruise ship. I love that. Yeah. Tell everybody about that if you can.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Gina. You're bringing back so many memories. Larry and I went on a cruise together. And the first night they had a big show, Dancing with the Stars, and there was a competition. And I won the East Coast Swing. And so they had all these different categories where you could win. So I won the East Coast Swing. So that was like, maybe the cruise was like from Saturday to Saturday. So maybe that was Monday night. So now I have to practice with my partner, who is, 30 years old. And so I'm practicing all week long, the dance that he taught me, right? It was so much fun. So the night of the competition, which was like Friday night, the whole ship goes to it, or whoever wants to go to the big ballroom. And right before we get on, my shoe, my sandal, that my dancing shoe, the strap broke. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So they have shoes because they have a crew, right? So they find me these shoes. Well, the heel was like, I don't know if you can see it. It was huge. I had never danced in those shoes, but I said, "Oh, let's see. You can't see it." Well, it was big anyway. Big shoes. And I said, "Well, Dad, we got to do it." And so I got out there and I did it with these big shoes, and it was wonderful. Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah, but talk about, trusting along the way, and then right before my shoe breaks and I have to wear these shoes, and that's tough. I mean, I was doing swings and kicks and whatnot. Yeah, yeah.
And you get younger every year. And you
Right.
get younger every year. God bless you. And you and I haven't actually spoken. We haven't had a conversation in years at this point. We've gone back and forth a few times by email, but it's
Right.
wonderful. But I want you to see that you're touching people's lives with this blog, because I remember all these things. We didn't talk about this ahead of time. These
Right.
are things that I just remember. They've impacted me, and think about how many people you're impacting. And, I say that because everyone has a purpose. Everyone has something in them. One of the greatest lines to me was Wayne Dyer when he said, "Don't die with the music still in you."
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
it is so important that people know their voice matters, their story
Yes.
matters. You are here. Show up. Be that, highest version of you. And whatever that looks like, shine.
Right.
Because you don't necessarily think that it's a big deal, but you don't know who you're helping. And
True.
so
And
you are helping so many.
thank
And
you,
I
Gina.
know a lot of people that are looking for that soulmate, that they've been looking for a long time. And there were times that you questioned and you're like, "All right, I'm here. Where is he?" And I
I'm not
remember,
right.
and I loved that. And the truth is, he was there all along. So I would love for you to share with us, because, of course, the book that you wrote, that I showed, the second one, "It's Never Too Late for Love," is written with your beloved. So please share that story.
Yes, it's such a beautiful story. Well, as I said, I moved here and I love to dance. So I went to a dance with my friend Ellen, who I lived with, and her daughter Pat. I was only here probably about a month. And I saw this guy dance. He was tall with gray hair, nice looking. And he danced like me, like the Lindy, which I grew up with. So I asked him, you have to ask men to dance because there's so many women. So I asked him to dance and find out he's from Connecticut and I was from Rhode Island. And we just had a nice conversation. And that was it. So I started to go to the dances every week and I would see him and we would just chat. And then I moved to another place and it was closer to him. So he asked me if I wanted to go for a walk. And I said, sure. So we started to walk together and I loved his spirituality. He talked about love and we became best friends. And my kids would say, Mom, what's wrong with Larry? We know you want to meet your soulmate. You're always with him. You're always talking about him. And I said, well, I just don't have any feelings. I mean, I love him as a friend, but I don't have any romantic feelings. And I was, I was on Match.com, and one day we were at church together at a Unity. It was an Easter service, in fact. And all of a sudden, I looked at him and I went, "Oh my God, I have feelings for him." I was shocked, and I was so scared to tell him because he had known that I was, looking for my soulmate. In fact, he was in a relationship at the time. So I called him and said, "Can you come over? I need to share something with you." And he came over, and I said, "I have feelings for you." And he said, "Oh," he said, "Well, let's see what happens." And within a few days, we were a couple, and we both had inner work to do before we came together, and that's for sure. And I have another story of how I moved here, Gina, that I love to share. I had lived in a small 500-foot, we call it Ohana, which is like an apartment, I guess. And I had come to the house where I'm living now with Larry, and we were still best friends. And I stood at the corner and I said, this is where I want to live. And I'd let it go. And a year later, the person who lived in this house was moving. So I had heard about it. So I called him and said, if you're thinking about moving, would you put me first on the list? And he said, okay. And I was paying $1,200 a month, and I stepped out in faith to where I'm living now at $2,500 a month. I knew, and like I said in the beginning, I'm on Social Security. I don't have a lot of money, right? But I knew God would provide. I knew in my spirit, and every month the money was $1,200 was provided for. I rented a room. I had a retreat here. And so should I show you the picture of where I live now?
Please show them that beautiful view. You post pictures of sunsets all the time.
I do.
And it is just literally you're in heaven.
It is. I don't know if you, there we go.
There
Can you see the ocean?
There's the ocean, that beautiful view.
Yeah.
And that's just your deck. Every morning you are in paradise with your soulmate. You are absolutely living the life that you were meant to, because you fearlessly went after it.
I did.
You didn't settle for what other people decided or said, or what was safe, or what you could see. You didn't see the staircase, but you took that step. You took the step that you could take, and it led you to the staircase. Now you are at the top of that staircase, you are living that. And that's, you absolutely deserve it. And I'm so grateful that you shared it. What's your motto? Tell everyone your motto.
Oh, live today. We're not promised tomorrow. Live every day as if it's your last day. Show up. So let me go back, Gina, to what happened with Larry. So he then moved in with me, and so we both live here now. We split the rent, and it's great. So he had been married twice, and like 20 years each time. So he had 2 long-term marriages, and he didn't want to get married again. And I had been married for 30 years and been single for 15. And during those 15 years, I really learned how to love myself. And I needed those 15 years to love myself before I manifested Larry. What was I saying now? It just went out of my head. Where was I, Gina? He moved in with me. Okay, said he didn't want to get married, but he made a commitment to me, and that was fine. And I had accepted it, although Spirit had said to me, just wait and trust. I'm working on Larry. And at Christmas time, I had the girls over, and we were having a Christmas party here. And Larry was in the den, and he came out, and he says to me in front of my girlfriends, sit down. Me being sarcastic, I said, oh, he's going to ask me to marry him. I mean, that just came out of my mouth. So I sit down, and he comes and he kneels before me. And he said, I am your king. You're my queen. Do you want to make it legal? Well, I went, did you just ask me to marry you? And he said, yes. And all my girlfriends were there. They're screaming. I was like, I have a picture that they took. My mouth was like, yeah. So we got married 4 years ago in May. We had a beautiful ceremony out here on our lanai with all our friends. It was just amazing. Yeah. So we've been married for 4.5 years now. Okay. So the book. So I have been writing my blog.
I just want to say that isn't it is your love story. Like everyone, we have to know what we choose and not settle for less, but also not give up on it, because it's divine timing, and it's trusting. And that's what faith is about. It's what we can't see. Otherwise, that's not faith.
Right.
So it's simply allowing Spirit to be, let God be God today. That's how I word it sometimes.
Love it.
Because it really, I try to micromanage and it never works.
No.
And that's the whole thing. It had to be the right time that the two of you had done the healing that you needed to be in the right space that you needed to. And,
perfect. Yeah.
And the gift too is then you both actually now write in this blog. It was just yours, and it now he adds to it as well, which is wonderful. And you've shared when there's times that if you don't agree on something, if you're hurt, or if there's something going on, it's so important that we remember to be real.
Yes. So how it happened with the book, as you said, I had been writing the blog for probably 12 years. And Larry came in and was writing with me for probably a year. And then he just didn't feel like that's what God wanted him to do anymore, which was fine. So I continued. But we both kept saying, well, maybe God wants us to write a book. But it was a lot of work, and we had kind of just forgot about it. So I was doing a workshop. I don't even remember who it was with. It doesn't matter. It was a Zoom. And we talked about death, and he said, we all have to face our death, our immortality. And he said, if there's one thing that you would regret if you died tomorrow, what would it be? And right away it came up to me was write a book with Larry, or finish the book, or put it together, or whatever. And I was like, okay, God, I don't really want to write a book, and neither does Larry. And I love my retired life, and I don't really want to feel stressed. But if this is your will, you have to put it on his heart that we're to write a book. And I let it go, and I didn't say anything to him. And a week went by, and I went, good. That's not, God doesn't want us to write a book. So then a week went by, and I figured I'm clear. So I say to Larry, I took this workshop, and this is what happened, and I had asked God to put it on your heart if we were supposed to write a book together. And he said, about a week ago, I was thinking about it, but I didn't say anything to you. He didn't want to write it either. So we both knew that this is what's God's will, and we both said okay. And we just for 6 months, we just every day we showed up. And the book is really cool because it has 33 chapters, and different chapters of all different kinds of things. But I share my view, and then Larry shares his view, which is, usually very different. So it's really nice. And then we have a journal question at the end of each chapter where, a person can go in. So that's how we wrote the book. Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to just put that up one more time for people. It's never too late for love. And of course, it is the two of you on that picture.
Yes, it is.
Too, that it's the two of you that have posed for that, which is absolutely wonderful. And you can reach Pat. I want to just say, Pat at simplyawomanoffaith.com is your email.
Yes.
And I want to make sure people know that they can reach out to you for coaching.
Yes.
As well as to get onto your blog if they want that weekly email. It's simplyawomanoffaith.com, which it's wonderful. And I encourage people. And you've posted links for videos. You've done all kinds of things. And when you go home to the family, you share pictures of your grandchildren. And, it's such a gift. You let the world in that way. And it's not always easy, especially when it's great when we're feeling great and looking how well things are going. But when we're not feeling that place of the best of, and that can be emotionally, physically, even spiritually, that's the most humbling to me. When I'm not at my best, to share that too is so important.
Gina, I remember when I was writing Simply a Woman of Faith, I remember going to bed one night crying hysterical with fear. And I was probably in the middle, or maybe even toward the end of writing. I don't remember where I was in the journey, but I went to bed crying hysterical and saying, I can't do this, God, I'm too afraid. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I've never written a book. I cried myself to sleep. And I had a dream that night. And the dream was I was walking up steps, and I got to the top of the steps, and I reached heaven. And there was a star, and I put my hand out, and I touched the star, and the words that came to me, I am a star. And it just went out of my head. I say it all the time. I'm a star that teaches others, that shows others, or inspires others to go within, to the God within. So I feel like I am that star. And we all are stars. I'm not anything anything special. We are all stars and we are all light. And God wants us, especially in this time, in all that's going on in the world, to be that light, to the world. And I know that my responsibility is to keep my vibration high in love and gratitude, no matter what is going on around me, and to trust that it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan, Yeah, so wherever you are in your life, if you're afraid, if you're doubting or whatever, faith is the answer. Faith is the gift, that we all have.
To me, that's my lifeboat. Life happens, but as long as I keep my hands and feet in the lifeboat, everything else finds its way.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean, if you were to look at the ingredients of a cake, you would never think that it was going to come out like it does.
Right. I could never have imagined living in this beautiful Hawaii, Maui, where the energy is just love, and living with my soulmate, my husband. I just could not have imagined it like this, and it was one step at a time. It was facing the fear, the not feeling deserving, trusting. I don't have money to live in a place like this, and God just always provides, always. Whether it be financially, spiritually, physically, it's. I show up, like I said, I show up every day and say, "Okay, God, I'm use me."
What's the next right thing? That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
We just need to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be the big picture,
Exactly.
and I don't know where it's leading, but here we go. And I started, for me, like I said, at this point, hard to believe that was 12, 13 years ago that I first walked in the doors of a CSL.
Is that long ago, Gina?
It is. Well, you're there 10 years, right?
Yes, I'm here 10 years in January.
So it's been a long time. And I started ministerial school at this point. I'm in my 4th year of ministerial school. And, it's an amazing thing, because I never in a million years would have thought that I was going to be a minister, let alone I grew up in Boston and I live in Rhode Island. I never planned to go back. And I was sharing I'm very excited to say this is my first week officially as the spiritual director of CSL Greater Boston. So I am, so grateful. It is a wonderful, wonderful community. And I just want to put that up there. You can reach me on Facebook, actually, through, finding just me or CSL Greater Boston, and that's some contact information. I would love for you to definitely reach out to me. Gina,
I'm so proud of you, Gina. I'm so proud of you. You have followed your heart and guidance.
It's been a ride. I'll tell you, it's been a wonderful, much of the time has been wonderful. And there's been a lot of times that wasn't. And it took the worst things in life to get me here. If it weren't for my experience of cancer, if it weren't for a lot of things that were not what I would have chosen them to be, I wouldn't be here. But I can tell you that when I started ministerial school 3.5 years ago, from the first semester, I knew I was where I belonged. As a life coach, I've, talked to people at this point, it's over 10 years that I've, as a life and spiritual coach, that I have spoken with people about what is your dream, but I always had that feeling of would have, could have, should have. There was always this immediacy in me that I should have already been there. I should have already done something. Right. That feeling like there's a race. And I knew consciously there wasn't. But I wasn't in the right place. It wasn't the right time. It always felt like there was something more that I was supposed to do. And as soon as I started ministerial school, that was my more, which blew me away. For you, when you were in Maui, you knew that was your more. Yeah. It's trusting that gut feeling that guides us, regardless of where we're going, because we don't know where we're going.
No.
Spirit knows. And, there's a big difference between what would I want and what is my highest and best. What does Spirit see as my highest and best?
Right.
Well, my question is always, what would you have me be?
Right.
And living that way is a roller coaster. There's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of discomfort at times, but it always comes out to the most miraculous places.
It does. You know, Gina, it reminds me of when I moved here. So when I was in Rhode Island, I had a coaching business. I was speaking and doing retreats. So when I moved to Maui, I'm assuming that I'm going to continue doing speaking and coaching. And I was only here for a very short time, and I heard Spirit say, I want you to learn how to be. I don't want you doing speaking. I don't want you doing retreats. I did continue to do coaching. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. I thought I knew how to be. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, God. No, I want you to learn how to be. And I listened, and I didn't do all that stuff. And it was so good because I could go within and just be. And I was a rushaholic. I have that in one of my chapters in Simply a Woman of Faith. I was a rushaholic and busyaholic. You know, I stayed busy to medicate what was inside of me, to medicate the feelings. I grew up in an alcoholic home with 2 alcoholic parents, and I was sexually abused by my father and a priest. So I had a lot of stuff inside that needed healing and needed to come to the light. So I needed that time to just be and relax. And I have signs over in my house still now, relax, relax, God's in control, relax, relax. And I've learned, I love my life right now. You know, I love the peace that I've created, the joy that I experience every day, and meeting people. And, you know, I don't have a big coaching practice right now, and that's okay. You know, I do some coaching. But I just love my life, going with the flow every day. Okay, what do you want me to do today, God? You know, and just allow
and you get
whatever.
you get that. You literally every day, whether you're walking on the beach and the people that you meet up with, or someone that you might be at the pool and somebody's beside you that needed exactly what you had.
I know.
And the stories are just incredible, one after the next, that you are doing exactly what you're called to.
Yeah.
And that's the gift of it, is that when we know that we're in the right place at the right time and we allow ourselves to be, because we're human beings, not human doings.
Right, right. And I think the key for me too is acceptance, accepting what is. So whatever happens, whether I like it or not, and obviously life happens, but it's practicing that acceptance, accepting what is. Okay, God, I accept this. I accept it when a door closes in my face that I thought was going to open. Okay, I accept. And that's my spiritual practice is of acceptance and choosing love. You know, when I feel afraid, choose love, choose love, choose love. Yeah. And I love your little pillow in the back.
I was going to say, you can tell from my pillows that's how that's what I think we're here to do, is to show up as love today.
We are love.
What does that look like? Just simply being love today. And that's not when it's convenient. So it's not when we're at our spiritual center or church or, you know, around our family and friends, but it's being that when someone just cut you off on the highway.
Yes.
It's being that when life doesn't seem to be going my way. It's being that when I'm coming up against somebody else's rough edges, and knowing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And
Yes.
and what does it look like? And you know, when you look on the internet and you see so many people in social media posting all kinds of stuff, and you think, you know, that's not showing up as love. You know, if I'm reacting, it's never the best of me.
Right.
So, you know, it's taking that moment to pause and pray. And it doesn't mean that we're always that holy, you know, it just simply means that we didn't say what we felt in the moment, because nothing good could come of it.
Right. True. Yeah.
So I am so grateful. This has been a wonderful, I know there's so much more that we could go into. What brings you joy? You know, you said you love looking in people's eyes, but give me, we're in the joy is in the journey.
Right.
What brings you joy?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things that bring me joy. Dancing. I love to dance. That brings me joy. Writing. I love to do my blogs every week. Um, just, sharing with my family on Zoom, spending time with Larry. We just got a new dog, well, 5 months ago, and he brings me so much joy. So much joy. I take him out and we sit. Sitting outside on my lanai, just looking at the ocean, sitting on my swing, praying brings me joy. Serving brings me joy. Yeah, there's so many things that bring me joy. Yeah, yeah. Cooking. I'm learning to, well, not learning to cook, but I'm cooking really good foods for myself. That brings me joy. Yeah, yeah. And of course, my love of my family and my friends. Um, and my husband bring me joy. Yeah, and this brings me joy, sharing my story. I am a star that shines brightly to lead others to the God within. That's what God said to me when I had that fear and I touched the star. I'm a star that shines brightly to lead others to the God within. And that's my, it's not about ego. It's if sharing my story can help one person trust God and surrender, it's all worth it. And my struggles, because like you said, Gina, I share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, I don't leave it. I don't leave anything out. Yeah.
My mission statement in life is similar to yours. I shine my light so brightly it reminds others of their own.
Say that again.
To shine my light so brightly it reminds others of their own.
Oh, I love it.
And that's part of why the background is what it is, because I love that. Because we
Yes.
are here to shine that light.
We
And
are
that's
the
divine
light.
light.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
not ours, it's not
Right.
ego. It's divine in
It's
us that is
divine light.
doing.
Yeah. It's divine light. Yeah. And yeah, that's what we're here to do. Yeah. Yeah. To be loved and to shine that light.
And I want to just make sure people know about your books and that they can reach out to you. Pat at simplyawomanoffaith.com is her email, and you can go onto her to get her onto her blog. It is simplyawomanoffaith.com. And just as you have the book, the first book was amazing, and I haven't gotten a chance to get into the second one yet, but I know the story and all that you share weekly is beautiful. So I encourage people. Is it just Amazon? Should they go to your website? What's the best way to get
They
it?
could go to Amazon. They could call me and get a signed copy, or Amazon does that. Probably would be the easiest. Yeah, yeah.
And it's also a wonderful gift, that because it's not easy as an author, because I have a few myself and I have a poetry book that I haven't gotten a chance to just get out there yet, and I'm not making the time, because it's sharing of yourself personally, but the important thing is these stories and what goes behind it is so important. Give them as gifts. If you know someone who's walking through a difficult time, Simply a Woman of Faith is perfect for that. If you know someone that's been looking for their soulmate and feels a little lost, it's a perfect gift. So it's letting people know that, yes, it's there, but it's what are they paying attention to? And, you are what they should be paying attention to. So I am so grateful to have you here. And I'm grateful also to this wonderful network that, I was sharing with Pep before we got started. She hadn't heard of the network yet. And, ntmedia.org is just amazing. We are here because of people just like you. And you can support this network, which is a nonprofit and on a shoestring budget. We'd love anything that anything that you'd be willing to give. It's ntmedia.org, and there's a button there that you can click to donate. You can set up as a monthly sponsor or just one time, whatever it is you have to offer. If you can share your love, we would love it. Thank you so much for that. Because there's so much here. If you didn't get a chance this morning, actually, Reverend Michelle on Jersey Girl Wisdom, just wonderful this morning, talking about more than just inclusion, but what is mine to do? It's not just about accepting diversity. It's not just about being an ally, but it's about how do I change things? How do I help be that change in the world? And, there's so many different aspects of different topics that are just the real conversations that we need to be having. And this network does a wonderful job of providing that. So I'm so grateful to be a part of this. And again, if anyone would like to reach out to me, you can do that on Facebook, or you can do that actually even on YouTube. It's Gina on YouTube. But CSL Greater Boston is also one of the sites, or gina@cslboston.org. And, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear the topics, whatever it is that you feel you'd like to see here, or the guests that you'd like to see in the joys of the journey. So, Pat, thank you so much.
Thank
Any
you.
final words for our viewers?
Choose love. Choose love. And follow your heart.
Absolutely, because those magic and miracles do happen. You
Every
are
day.
a perfect example of that it is absolutely never too late to be what you might have been, to find that right and perfect one. And
Yes.
It couldn't have happened sooner, because he was in 2 marriages before you.
I know.
It had to, he's housebroken at this point. So now he's got the bad habits gone, and he's exactly perfect. So
He's exactly perfect.
It's knowing that it's all, where and when it's supposed to be. So,
and it's all in perfection. All in perfection, God's perfection. Yes. Gina, thank you so much. This has been such a joy.
It is so good to catch up with you. And I encourage people to also reach out to you, Pat, at simplyawomanoffaith.com. And just, it's so inspiring. So I look forward to talking to you a little bit more down the line. We'll do this again and have some more fun. Thank you all for watching and, being part of this network and its success. And just let people know we're here, that there is good news here. We have a prayer team, 8:15 a.m. and p.m. on Mountain Time, 10:15 where I am on the East Coast, that we've got an entire team praying a.m. and p.m., knowing the truth. So be here with us, know the truth with us, and share the good news. Blessings and love, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Sending you love, Gina.
Namaste.
Aloha.
Aloha.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.